Welcome back. The Department of Homeland Security will bring in nearly 300 new cyber employees after a 60-day cyber sprint. DHS has another 500 tentative job offers in the works, too. Angela Bailey is the Chief Human Capital Officer at the Department of Homeland Security. Angie, welcome back. Thanks for coming on the program again. What was the process by which you got more people than you wanted to at a time when everybody says cyber talent is among the hardest talent to identify in the marketplace?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for Francis, for having me on your show. I really appreciate it, especially the opportunity to showcase some of the great work that DHS was able to do in this cyber workforce initiative. So I think the number one thing is that when DHS puts its mind to something, we can get a lot done. And it took senior leadership level support. And in fact, it was driven from the secretary himself. He said, look, we've got around 2,000 vacancies. We need to set a goal of at least getting 10% of those hired by July 1st. And let's see what all you guys can do to make it happen. And so we knew initially it was an aggressive goal, but when we started really digging into it and working with the components and also with our cyber professionals, what we realized is we had this really rich and deep network of contacts already, whether it was with academia or it was with like DEF CON, Black Hat, et cetera. Because we had these contacts already, we were able to really throw that net out there and really sell people, I believe, on the DHS mission, which is an incredibly important mission. And we've been in the press here of late with, some of the things, everything from the elections to the pipeline, et cetera. And so I think it was really an enticing mission set for people, and people really actually do want to serve their country. So in my mind, there's no better place than DHS, and they rose to the occasion.
When you bring these people in, they will be coming into what you're calling a distributed workforce. That's the way that you're approaching the idea of the remote work environment in the next year to 2 years to 5 years. What does that distributed workforce look like, and how are you providing for something that you may not know today what exactly it's going to look like at some point in the future, Angie?
Yeah, so, and I'm really glad that you used the term distributed workforce, because that's really how I'm trying to phrase this conversation, or at least frame the conversation around this idea of distributed workforce. We get so hung up on thinking that things are remote work versus telework, and what percentage can do this, and the haves and the have-nots, and it's like, it's sometimes you have to just step back from it all and say, haven't we been working in a distributed environment for a very long time? I mean, our Coast Guard cutters, they're not anchored in the Potomac, tied up to St. Elizabeth's. They're actually out on the ocean doing their job that they need to do in a very distributed manner, meaning that the crew, the leadership, everyone else, they're not anchored at St. Elizabeth's, just as an example. Our Border Patrol agents, they also are out in a very distributed fashion, right? So also is our cyber workforce. And so when we think about this, what we have to start thinking about, instead of, again, who can telework, who can remote work, we need to say to ourselves, we're already in this distributed environment. So how best do we make use of the technology? How best do we make use of our policies and our procedures and stuff to make sure that that environment works as efficiently and as effectively as possible? So in some cases, it may be that, yes, you do work out of your home, but it may be in other cases that you come in because you have to go into a secure environment to, do some of the work that needs to be done. And then in other cases, it may be that we come in for opportunities to collaborate or to create or to celebrate each other. And so I think what you'll find is that what we're really starting to do is say, again, I'll just repeat this again. We've always been working in a very distributed fashion. DHS is over 250,000 strong across the globe. You couldn't get more distributed than that. And so making sure that we have the right kinds of technologies available, such as this, right? We're using Zoom right now to have this very virtual conversation, but making sure that in addition to that, what are other ways that we can make sure that we touch base with our employees, that they don't feel isolated, that they have the opportunity to come into the office when it makes sense to come into the office. Or again, like the examples I used of the Border Patrol or FEMA, who has to respond to a disaster, or to our Secret Service agents who are out protecting the president and our high, officials. How do we ensure that in that environment in which they are not tethered to an office or to a cubicle, how do we make sure that we stay in touch with them, that they're heard, that they have the necessary tools and equipment that they need in order to be able to do their jobs? So I hope that makes sense, but that's just really the way that I'm trying to steer the conversation, so that we stop getting so hung up on the words telework and remote work and acting like as if that's some new phenomenon that's never occurred before.
Angie, we have less than a minute left, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask. The new best places to work in the federal government numbers are out. DHS struggling again. What is the agency doing year on year to try to not just move those numbers, but try to engage with your workforce more so that the numbers eventually move? That's the outcome rather than just an output.
Well, it's a great question. I just want to shift it just a little bit to say that while the best places to work may still, of course, label us as being the last in the federal government, we must change the way that we talk about this. DHS has improved in the last 5 years 13 percentage points. I would argue that that's probably more so than almost any large agency, especially an agency the size of DHS. So it's like an aircraft carrier right in the middle of downtown DC. We've managed to shift the direction of that aircraft carrier in a very tough terrain, and made sustained progress. So it's not just a one-off year thing, it is actual sustained progress. How are we doing that? Very hands-on leadership from the ground up and from the top down and from across. And so by staying in touch with our employees, making sure that we deliver to them the kinds of things that they need, whether it's employee and family readiness initiatives, financial literacy, how to be socially connected, dropping down into their heart and asking their heart the question instead of always going from their mind. Those are just some of the very small things that we're doing. But the bottom line is that by sending a message that we actually care for each and every one of them and that we're here to support them in any way possible to do their jobs, I think is actually making a difference. And so it's not complicated. It's just caring about each other and making sure that we deliver on whatever promises that we put out there.
Angela Bailey, thanks very much for joining me.
You're more than welcome. Thank you, Francis. It's always a pleasure.